Hey, what is up, everybody? Sean here with my final video in my 6 month personal fitness journey. So, if you've been here the entire time, I thank you for following along. For those that are potentially watching this sometime in the future and are jumping forward to the end to see what the actual results are before they invest in a 6 month long worth of documentation of a fitness journey, welcome. Thank you for being here. But this is my final video that I'll be doing in this playlist on YouTube. The purpose of this video is to do my final reflection and discuss my thoughts overall of the entire 6 month process for my fitness journey. Talk about what I've learned, talk about what worked, talk about what didn't work, talk about what I wish I knew earlier. All these type of things. Doesn't mean I'm necessarily going away. Right now, the reason I did the fitness journey, I decided to take these 6 months is because I was deployed. That deployment is now coming to an end. The next couple of weeks are going to be pretty busy as we get ready to rotate out. I could probably do a couple more videos if I wanted to, if I had the capacity, but I don't necessarily know what the timelines are going to look like. And it'll be a little bit disruptive. People moving in and out. So with that, might end up getting roommates, might move to another building. So might not have the privacy to put together videos like this. May not have the same amount of time to go to the gym each day, completely disrupting the regular flow. So rather than risk it out and then have potentially less valuable videos, figured I'd just cut it off right at the 6 month part and go with that. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. All right. So I know everybody, especially those that may be coming from the just wanting to see the end results first to see if they want to invest in this. They're always interested in what the results actually were. And you can clearly see here there's a lot of progress that was made. Each of these are essentially the 1 month snapshots. So that very first one on the top left is where I started, week 0, followed by week 1, week 2, week 3. I'm sorry, month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4, month 5. And then finally, month 6 on the bottom right. That is as of this morning. And it's almost like a completely different person. Overall, this fitness journey, I'm very happy that I've done it. I lost along the way about 40 pounds now. So started at 186. I'm down to just about 146 right now. But in addition to just losing weight, I also gained a little bit of strength. When I started, I could bench press maybe 90, 95, 105. Right now, I can consistently do about 145. Wish it was a little bit further, but I think the process of trying to lose weight really hampered some of the gains that you can have on the strength side because you have to be in that calorie deficit to lose weight. It is hard. It's not impossible, as you can see, but it is hard to lose weight and gain muscle and gain strength. What you do get is essentially the newbie gains, which I was primed for that. Towards month 5, getting into month 6 here, it really tapered off and couldn't just rely on burning body fat and potentially using that to build muscle. Started getting out of that newbie phase and things slowed down a lot. But you can see the beard got there, going from hanging over the pants pretty significantly to in that bottom right there, you can actually see an outline of a six pack, which is the first time I've had that since I was 20, about 20 years ago. Some of these pictures, the quality isn't the best because I'm using a laptop here to do the recordings, and it's not the most optimal solution for video, but was able to capture some of them, and it does show the overall results. I tried to roughly have the same location each time I took the picture, just so you can see the results on a week to week comparison. A week to week specifically, if you're looking at my weekly videos that I came out. So a total of about 23 of them of the weekly videos because I didn't do one this last week. But 6 months along the way came out to about 24 weeks using every 4 weeks as a counter for a month. So there was some hiccups along the way. If you did watch some of my videos right around the halfway part, middle of June, We had that 12-day war where some of our neighbors to the east and neighbors to the west were firing missiles over each other right over top of where we are at Kuwait. It wasn't necessarily fun, but it disrupted the ability to do some of the exercises. So, what did it look like on a week over week basis? You can see where I started with the weight way over there, starting above 185. And my goal was to hit 155. I figured that'd be a healthy amount for my height, 5'6". The upper level of being considered normal weight is 155. So that was my goal. Was actually able to surpass that. I hit that a couple weeks ago. When I did hit that around week 18, I decided I was going to shift and stop trying to lose weight and try to gain more muscle, particularly to try to go after one of my other goals. Again, we'll talk about that a little bit later. And it leveled off there for the weight. We even actually saw a little bit of a spike. That other spike there around week 11, that is where 12-day war kicked off and had to stop going to the gym, had to start working 13, 14-hour days, and started just stress eating in general. So not very helpful. Also during that time is when I started switching to taking creatine each day. First part of the weight loss journey, I didn't take any type of supplements at all. Halfway through, I started to see what I can do with creatine to make progress, and I got to say, I am impressed with it. Not only the little bit of boost it gives you for exercise, strength training, but also mental clarity, especially when you're a little bit sleep deprived. About 2 weeks ago, I realized I'm not going to hit my final goal of building strength. So decided to shift again to losing a little bit more weight, see if I can get down a little bit lower on the body percentage, which I was shooting for. I've been hovering around about 18%, especially around the week 12 halfway point. When I started actually tracking it, I picked up a scale that tracks body fat, depending on how accurate that is. Started around 20% at that point, got it down to about 18, leveled off. But at the very end here, I was down about 15.5. Another week or so here, 2 weeks, I might be able to get it down to 12, 13, I'm hoping, especially if I continue doing the fasting regimes that I'm doing, regimens. And then you can see the week over week changes in the weight. Anything above the red line is weight that I lost. Anything below that red line is weight that I gained. For the most part, most instances, I lost weight. Week 6 was another indicator that I needed to change things up. I started off pretty strong with losing weight pretty consistently. One of the things I really didn't recognize at first that I wish I knew when I started is with something like alternate day fasting, your weight will fluctuate all kinds of levels on a day-to-day basis, but week over week is a pretty good measure of if you've gained or lost weight. But the first couple of weeks there, first 4 weeks, first month, I really didn't care about what I was eating because alternate day fasting, you're supposed to just eat every other day and then you eat whatever you want and then you still lose weight. I was eating way more than I probably should, eating a lot of empty calorie stuff, breakfast burritos, so having that tortilla shell, which is like 100 calories by itself, throwing a bunch of Swiss cheese on there, which each of those slices is like 100 calories themselves. And I was actually going above what I should have been hit for maintenance at least. So you saw that spike there. And after that point, I started actually tracking calories and tracking some of the macros on a day-to-day basis. Previously, if you watch the videos, I was tracking what I ate as far as pictures, but I didn't really go into the details of am I really keeping track of a slight calorie deficit over the week. That other spike there in the middle is week 11, week 12, where the 12-day war kicked off. So everything changed at that point. And around that point, I changed up some of the routines I was doing. So you can see it's a little bit up and down each week. Not necessarily get to the point of gaining weight, but with alternate day fasting, it seems like just the way it occurred, basically 3 days of fasting 1 week, 4 days of fasting another week, you would have a little bit of a change in your weight where it's more significant loss 1 week, less significant the next week. And then again, that continued until right around week 20 where I decided to switch. I guess it was about week 18 is where I decided to switch to doing strength training, less cardio, eating every day essentially, but doing a 24-hour fast between an alternate day 24-hour fast, eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then eat breakfast the next day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner the next day, breakfast, lunch, dinner. So breakfast to breakfast was about 24 hours. Other times was about 8 hours. And then I'd continue that with a long fast. With that, you can see I gained a little bit of weight back. For the most part, stayed pretty stable. Again, the focus was trying to not necessarily lose more weight at that point and to focus on the strength train, but didn't really see that come to fruition. About 2 weeks ago, I decided, okay, I'd rather just get a little bit more body fat down so I can make it easier to sustain when I'm back home. And as you can see, I focused on losing a little bit more weight here towards the end. All right, so what were my goals during this whole thing? I had four main goals. One was to make sure I hit below 145 or 155 pounds. So you can see there, I'm currently weighing in at 147. So beat that. Wanted to get the 300-mile club. So got the t-shirt associated with that. I ran 3 miles each night. I really started picking it up around the first month, but 3 miles each night, other than that period surrounding the 12-day war. And by the end, I was able to hit 350 miles. So surpassed that. And that's just running itself. If I counted the amount that I would walk, it'd probably be closer to 900 miles because I did a lot of walking out here. 1,500 steps per day or so to include the running and walking combined. So 350 miles. So well surpassed that. The 750-pound club. So I did hit the 500-pound club, bench press, deadlift, and squat. So you do your 1 rep max for all those exercises, add them up. I did about 545 pounds, I think, or 585 was what I did when I went for the 500-pound club. Thought I can hit the 750-pound club by the end. As of today, I'm still about 80 more pounds to go for that. And I really have 2, maybe 3 weeks out here left. It's not going to happen. And especially since I decided to make that decision to switch to losing a little bit more weight, get that body fat down, it's a goal I'm willing to accept being a loss. And then getting my 1.5 mile time down. So I wanted to be able to run less than 11 minutes, which I haven't been able to do since my early 20s. And I successfully did that, not only one time as a fluke, but at least twice. Got it down to 10 minutes and 56 seconds. But compared to where I started 6 months ago, I was running my 1.5 mile time at close to 16 minutes. So either way, whatever it is, it's progress. All right, so what did I continue from last month? Because essentially, through all the learning, all the changes, if you watch my month-to-month videos, you see there is different changes that occurred. Some of them I changed because things weren't working out. Some things I changed because I heard it was a good idea. I wanted to try it out. So what on here is essentially the things that I figured were the most helpful across the fitness transformation journey here. Number one is pushing your strength training to failure. If you still have stuff in reserve, whether I'm not saying doing 3 reps and then that's all you're done for the exercise, you're done. There's times where I was doing 10 reps, 15 reps or so with lower weights. But either way, whatever I'm doing with those lower weights, I'm pushing myself until I can barely do one more rep. And some of those actually I saw more results than doing the 2 or 3 reps before I hit failure. The importance of tracking calories and macros, especially if your goal is weight loss. Macros in particular, I was heavily focused on making sure I get enough protein, especially with alternate day fasting. Wanted to try to preserve as much muscle as possible without eating every other day. So try to load up as much protein as I can during the days that are there, build some muscle potentially. The other one, I tried to limit the amount of carbs that I had. I didn't really care much about fat. And then the other one that's not really a macro is fiber, making sure I had enough. Because sometimes if you eat a lot of protein, you can have gastrointestinal issues. So making sure you have some fiber to balance that out. Tracking the calories is another thing, not only for making sure I have a calorie deficit long term, but also on days where I was doing strength training across the board. I was trying to make sure I at least hit my sustainment levels so that I could potentially use that for body recomposition and use that higher level of calories, even sometimes having a surplus on those days to build strength. And from what I saw, I believe it's completely possible. Some people say it's not. Again, it could be part of those newbie gains, but it seemed to me from going through here, I was able to build strength and lose weight at the same time by having calorie surpluses on my eating days, my feasting days, and by having huge calorie deficits with cardio on my fasting days. Did eat a high level of fruits, high level of vegetables as well, but tried to limit the grains mainly because of the carbs. The carbs that I did have, I tried to focus from getting from the fruits and the vegetables. But the grains just really don't do it for me. They got a lot of extra calories in them, not a lot of stuff that they bring. Did try to do more ab work, especially in this last month. As part of my full body workouts, I would do a lot of ab heavy work, but also on the regular days, I would add one or two exercises associated with ab crunches, those type of things. Having a 3 mile run each day, even after I hit that 300-mile club, initially was there just to try to make sure I can hit that. Afterwards, I won't say I like running, but it's effective. Other things that I've been doing that's not listed here is once a week I do a ruck march. So I got 40 pounds of gear, throw it on, and then walk 3 miles instead, which I like that. Takes a lot more time, but I think it does a lot of good strength training. Taking creatine, I got to say, I'm a believer in creatine. The stuff I'm using is the micronized powder without flavor. So adding it into some water. A lot of times I'll add it in with a drink packet when I do have it in the morning when it's a non-fasting day. But drinking it with some water, being out here in the desert, I just grab a water bottle that's sitting outside. It's usually warm, so it helps it dissolve a little bit easier. But I have to say it's very effective. There was a couple days in there where I ran out of creatine, and it was a couple days before I went to the store to be able to pick some more up. And I don't know if maybe it's placebo effect, but I was definitely more sluggish. I couldn't really do as much as far as the exercises without it. But when I do have it, I feel like my mental sharpness, I feel like I have stronger exercises that I'm able to push myself further, which ultimately builds more muscle in the long run. I've been taking about 12 grams per day. So I was started with essentially having 5 per day, having a half a scoop and another half scoop later. Moved it up to a full scoop and a full scoop, and then a little bit extra each because I'm trying to get rid of the rest of the creatine before I have to leave because I can't take it on the plane with me. Tracking the body fat, halfway through the rotation here after the 12-day war, I picked up a scale at the store just because the gyms were closed and that's the scales that I was using previously. So I bought my own, had a body fat tracker on it. So started to do that. Gave myself an idea of tracking, am I making progress and actually losing body fat? So from the halfway point, I saw myself drop from about 20% to about where I'm now, about 15%. So I'm hoping to drop a little bit more in the next couple of weeks. The current routine I have now for the fitness, I think is pretty good. I started in the beginning by just throwing a whole bunch of exercises together. Like I would have a day where I would do all the powerlifting. So bench press, squat, deadlift, and then that's all I would do. Other days where I would have leg presses and then some arm work. I don't think it was as effective as splitting it up. So now I have all my upper body stuff on one day, my lower body and back the next, and then a full body, which another exercise I'm really a huge fan of is the farmer carries. You take the weights in both hands, you just walk as far as you can. First time I was able to get some forearm arm muscles, help with the grip. So very simple exercise, but I think it has a lot of results for the amount of exercise you have to do with it. And then doing weekly long fasts is something that I started early last month and continued for now. So with the weekly long fast, the way we had that new rotation of eating of breakfast and then breakfast, lunch, dinner, then breakfast, it would happen on a Friday where one week I would have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I would never eat on Saturday and then would eat again on Sunday morning. So if I ate dinner on Friday, it'd be a 36-hour fast. If I only ate breakfast on that Friday, I'd end up being a 48-hour fast. I did successfully do a 72-hour fast this last month. That was a little bit more challenging, but I think I felt pretty good afterwards. I don't know if I would do it every week. I wouldn't do it maybe even every month, but I think it's worthwhile to do it every once in a while. And then, as I've mentioned a couple of times, I was doing those 24-hour fasts on a daily basis. I stopped doing that about last week, switch it up to doing alternate day fasting again, an extended alternate day fasting. So I'm eating breakfast and lunch and then don't eat again until breakfast the day after the next. So I'll eat breakfast, lunch, skip ahead 24 hours, skip ahead another 12 hours, and then breakfast, I'm eating again. So I do that every other day, coinciding with when I'm doing strength training on those days, and then doing cardio on the full body and cardio on my fasting days. And that's where you can see that drop in the weight again in that previous chart really came from that. So, in general, what are some of my thoughts and reflections over this 6 month period? The goals are good to have, they're a great motivator, but you do have to be realistic. At a couple of weeks ago, as I mentioned before, I realized it's not in the realm of possible to hit my 750, no matter how much effort I put into it. My squats in particular were ugly looking. I'd probably only go down about 3/4 of the way. And it was a struggle to get up. My knees are starting to. So if you put in unrealistic goals and keep pushing towards them without giving yourself ample time to do it, which, I was under a time crunch to try to get it by the end of the rotation, you could potentially hurt yourself. So you need to look at what's actually realistic. At times it was a demotivate. It was a something that would demotivate me because I was not making the progress that I thought I would. But by moving forward and realizing that I have to accept that I'm not going to hit the goal and move towards goals that I'm continuing to make and continue to make progress on other areas, it reinvigorated me, continued to let me push this last little bit, and brought in a little bit more motivation. Alternate day fasting, I got to say, if you're not doing it and you want to lose weight, start. It's not all that hard. The first day or two were hard, shifting from eating on a regular schedule to every other day eating. But once you get into the routine, you find you're really not hungry on those fasting days. In fact, yeah, I would say that I wasn't necessarily hungry even on my eating days leading up to them, but I did miss the routine of eating. I missed the social aspect of it. I missed the taste of food on fasting days, but I didn't necessarily say I was hungry. I could perfectly go fine without eating anything those days, even to include running, cardio, doing some weightlifting moderately on some of those days. So I wasn't necessarily hungry, but I enjoy the taste of food, and that's what I miss the most. So if you can get past that part, it's a great way to eat whatever you want on one day and then still lose weight. The question of sustainment is something I'm still trying to figure out. One of the benefits of being out here in a deployment is I can walk to work. It takes me 5 minutes to get to where I need to. I have a gym right there. I have a dining facility that basically prepares the food for you. All you have to do is go in line. And I don't have any other responsibilities other than work and working out. Going back home, getting into my day-to-day routine, I've got an hour and a half drive to work, hour and a half drive back. Got to help get the kids to school and get ready and take them to different practices. Gonna have to put in the effort to make food each night. So with all that, it's also going to cut into the amount of time available. So taking the 2.5 hours that I've been using to work out each
day here, it's not going to fit into the day to day when I get back home. That's why I decided to try to focus a little bit more on the weight loss this last couple of weeks, because I did see these last 2 weeks that it's easy to continue to sustain your weight, even slow the amount that you're going to go up in weight. The amount of exercise I was doing was limited compared to what I was doing previously. So it was more closely related to what I'll see at home. But I wanted to be able to try to be a little bit lower in my weight so that I can sustain at 140 instead of sustain at 155. Another thing, I'm going to still try to do alternate day fasting, although I got to admit my wife is a really good cook. So it's going to be kind of hard to say, no, I'm not going to eat your food today. It is also a little bit more of a social aspect, eating with family versus bringing it into my 1 bedroom apartment here, coming in and sitting in front of my computer and eating real quick. Having that social aspect with family and eating the food that we prepared together. Maybe I'll do a 24-hour fast, 1 meal a day, and eat dinner each day. Maybe I'll have a follow-up video in a couple weeks, a couple months to show where I'm at and let you know what I decided. All right, so with that concludes my fitness journey. If you're just joining now as someone planning on doing their journey themselves and they just wanted to see how this all worked out, I encourage you to go through and look at all my videos. Start with the 1 month look backs, 1 month reflections to give yourself an idea of what you can expect. But if you want to get into the finer grain details, look at my weekly videos. Again, I don't necessarily anticipate putting any more videos here in the future, but you can still be sure to like and subscribe if it happens. But if I do any kind of other content, it's probably going to be something more job related versus fitness related. So, with that, I thank you all for being here, and I wish you all good luck if you take your own fitness journey.